Let's now talk about accrued expenses. These are the expenses that have been incurred but not yet been billed. So usually when we incur the expenses, we get the bill and we record the expenses from that bill. But what happens is sometimes some companies do bill us in arrears after some time, maybe in the next month, maybe in the next quarter, or even maybe in the next year. In those cases, accounting does not allow you to record the expenses of this period in the next period when actually the bill arrives. You still have to record your expenses for this period in this particular period. Let me give you an example. Let us say that our electricity company is billing us quarterly in arrears, which means that for the January, February, and March, we will keep incurring the expenses, but the bill for these expenses will be received in the month of April. Now, as I told you, that as you have incurred your expenses in January, February, and March, you have to record those expenses. But the payable that will be recorded against these expenses will not be called accounts payable, rather that would be called accrued expenses payable. So how we are going to record that expenses? For January, we will estimate the expense and record, because in January we haven't received the bill yet, so we will make the best estimate from that. Maybe we already have agreement for a fixed amount, we don't even need an estimate, or if we don't have an estimate, we have some way to calculate. So for example, for electricity or for gas, usually we can see the units that we have consumed and make an estimate from there. Similarly, for February, we will make an estimate and record that expense. Same for March. And in April, when original bill arrives, we will record that complete original bill, and then we will reverse that liability of accrued expenses and record a new liability of accounts payable. Now, April is a bit confusing, but don't worry, I will just clear it up in just a moment. So let's talk about how we are going to do that recording. In January, we will record the bill, for example, that is £100 estimate, an expense of £100, and the liability of accrued expense payable of £100. Similarly, in February, again, let us say our estimate is £100, we will be recording the expense for £100, and against that we will be recording a liability with the name accrued expense payable with the same amount. Same goes for the month of March. But in April, let us say we received the original bill and that bill amount is £350. Now we actually have to record and pay £350 expense. But please take a look. You have already recorded the expense of 300, 100 in Jan, 100 in Feb, and 100 in March. So we will just record an expense of 50 additional pounds in April, because 300 is already recorded. And on the other hand, you can see that we have recorded accrued expense payable in Jan, Feb, and March combined 300. We will be reversing that. You can see a negative sign here, which is basically to show you that this expense, this payable, is going to be reversed here. And then we will now be recording a liability of accounts payable of 350. So you can see we have received the bill 350. The liability that has been recorded is 350. But the expense that is being recorded is only 50, because 300 was recorded earlier in the respective periods. And then we have also reversed this accrued expense payable that was recorded in the previous 3 months. Now this is the overview of accrued expenses accounting. But the question is how we are going to do that in QuickBooks Online. So let us navigate to QuickBooks now. Now here in QuickBooks Online, you know that we have two options to record an expense. We use the bill option when the expense is payable, and we use this expense option when expense is also getting paid in the same transaction as recording of the expense. Let me show you both of them. Basically, we won't be able to use either of these, so I just need to explain you why. So let me show you the bill option first. Here, as I go on the bill, you can see that here we can choose the supplier name and the bill date and the amount, and also the expense category. For example, in this case, this is going to be heat and lighting, because we are receiving the bill for electricity. But you do not have the option to choose your other account, which in our case is accrued expense payable. So what happens is, to make the process simple for non-accountants, QuickBooks has hidden the other account behind the scenes, and we have seen that when we recorded the expenses earlier using the bill option, that account was accounts payable. So if I record this expense using the bill option, the expense will be recorded, but the other side will be recorded in the accounts payable, which is different from the accrued expenses payable. For accrued expenses, we haven't have the bills. For the accounts payable, we do have the bills. That is the difference. And accounting does not allow you to mix these two. So as a result of that, we cannot use the bill option because we have to record the accrued expenses, not the accounts payable. So we won't be able to use this option. Let us close that. And now let me show you the other option, that is the expense option. Well, I had like to use the expense option with some alteration here. And that alteration is, here you can record your expense, for example, heat and light. That is absolutely fine. And here you can record the other side of the account, that in our case is accrued expenses. So if we could get our accrued expenses account here, which is going to be the current liability account, we could record the expense, accrued expense, using this expense option, just like we have used prepayments earlier using the expense option. But the problem is, QuickBooks only allows you to have the bank accounts and other current assets account only here in this particular drop down. So now you have a choice. You may like to create an account accrued expenses with the option other current asset, and that will show up on your balance sheet with a negative balance. Well, that is okay, not very wrong, but well, that is not the best way to do that. The best way is the accrued expenses should be appearing in the current liabilities in our balance sheet. So there is no way around for that in QuickBooks Online, and for that reason we have to now use something that is usually not meant for non-accountants, and that is called journal entry. Now usually it is pretended that journal entry is something quite complicated and you should not be doing that. But let me show you, it is not that complicated if you understand the overall subject. And let's not forget, we also have the support of ChatGPT. We are in 2025. So first let me show you the basic introduction of journal entry by going to this screen, and then I will show you how you can take the help from ChatGPT by giving a simple instruction of one line. Now here on this screen, you will notice that the first thing that you got to enter here is the accounts. We know that we are going to record the expense for heat and light, so let us select that. And we also know that we haven't received the bill for that, so for that we have to record a liability in the name of accruals. So we know the basic thing, that is the account is going to be heat and light, and the other account is going to be the liability in the name of accruals. And let's not forget, this is appearing here as other current liability account. Now the next thing that we need to notice is that here to enter the amount, we do not have a single column, we have two columns, one is debit and the other is credit. We got to know that in which account we are going to debit and in which account we are going to credit. So let me tell you that expenses are always recorded on the debit side and the liabilities are always recorded on the credit side, but here you can take the help of ChatGPT. So let me take you to ChatGPT and let me show you that how a simple one-liner prompt will help you record that. So I will say I got to record an expense of 100 GBPs for heat and light. The bill will be received in the following month. So by this statement, ChatGPT will know that we are not talking about simple accounts payable, we are talking about accrued expenses. So I will just instruct, please give me the journal entry. And now you can see we haven't entered anything technical here. We have just provided simple English sentence for our situation, and it is telling you that heat and light should be debited by 100 and accrued expense should be credited by £100. So let us go back to our QuickBooks Online, and here heat and light should be debited by 100 and accruals credited by 100. So here we will say to record the expenses for Jan 25, and same goes here to record the expenses for Jan 25. Now here we can enter the name of the supplier for this particular facility. So I will click here on add new, and let us say that the name of the company that has provided us heat and light is London Power Company. Let us save that, and by entering this information, we will be able to use the ledger for this particular supplier. We will be able to track the invoices against this particular supplier, invoices and bills. So here you can select if it is VAT applicable or no. Then you can select if it is applicable to any specific location. I will choose all locations, and here you can select if it is relevant to any clause. That is not the case for us. With this, we have recorded all of this information, and now we just need to enter the correct date and then click on save and close. But before I do that, let me show you that I am going to enter this on the 30th of January. This is the bill for January, and you can see that here in my journal right now there is no transaction on 30th of January. Usually the entries like this for accruals and prepayments are done on the last day of the month, but I am choosing to do it on the 30th because on 31st we have other entries as well, and I just want to show you the blank report here. Just like that, you can see we don't have anything in our profit and loss report for the 30th of January, and you can see that in my balance sheet right now you can notice that there are no accruals appearing here in my balance sheet. Now let me go back to journal entry. Let me choose the date of 30th of January, and now click on save and close. And now since my period is locked, it is asking me to double check and enter my password. I have just done that. Click on yes, and the transaction has been entered using the journal entry. So I will just go and refresh my report here. You can see I have now journal entry that I have just recorded. I will also check my profit and loss. I should be able to see this expense in the P&L now. Here you can see that, and I should also be able to see the accrued expense liability here in my balance sheet now. And as I scroll down, you will see that now we have current liability with the name of accruals that has been recorded. So I hope you have found this pretty easy, and I would request you to repeat this process yourself for the month of February and March, and then let's continue another interesting part for the month of April together. So please pause this video, record the February and March journal entry that we were just talking about at the beginning. I will show you. This is the data that we are talking about: 100 for Jan, 100 for Feb, 100 for March, and then we will continue the April together. So please resume the video once you have done these 2 months. So we have recorded our expenses, and now in the balance sheet on the 31st of March, we should be able to see the accrued payable of £300. And as we scroll down, you will see there is an accrual of 300 as current liability. Now let's talk about the month of April when we will receive the actual bill from our supplier. And the bill we received in this case is £350. Now we don't have to record the full expense of 350 because we have already recorded the expense of 300 in these months. So we just got to record the additional expense of 50, but the liability that we are going to record is going to be 350, and in the meanwhile this accrued expense liability that we have recorded will no more be needed because we have recorded this liability. So we will be reversing that. Now the question is how we will record this in QuickBooks Online. Well, of course we can do the journal entry, that is not difficult at all, but the standard practice when we are using a good software like QuickBooks Online is that if you can use some other standard form to record a transaction, let's not enter a journal entry. And what standard form can we use? Let me ask you a question. Whenever you receive a bill, which form do we use in QuickBooks Online? Well, we simply use this bill option from here. So we will be using this again and we will be recording the full transaction using this bill option. I repeat, you can do the journal entry, but since we can handle this situation with the standard form, that is better. So I will be using this bill option. Let's click here. First of all, let us choose the supplier. That is going to be London Power Company, and then the date. I'm going to record this transaction on the 3rd of April. Let us say we received this bill on 3rd of April. You can see that in my journal here there is no transaction at all. So whatever will come here in a moment will be because of the bill that I am recording now. That is just to verify what we have done, how that will look like in the report. And then the question is all locations, the category. Now these two parts are here. First of all, we got to record an expense of 50 into the heat and light because that is something that was under expensed. So heat and light, and the amount is 50. And then the remaining £300 will be recorded here into the accruals account. Now you must be thinking that using this account here means like we are recording an expense. Well, that is not how it works. Whichever account that we enter here will be used to record this amount. If that is an expense account, you are recording an expense. If that is a liability account, you are recording a liability or a reversal of liability. Now here, this is going to be a reversal of liability. I will show you in the journal in a moment. Now here, that is all we need to record, and then due date, we can post it as 10th or whatever that is applicable in your case. And now click on save and close, and your bill has been recorded. Let us first of all check the entry that has been posted. So I will go here and refresh this report, and now you can see that you have creditors, that is accounts payable of 350, and the heat and light has been recorded by 50, and accruals have been debited. Remember, we were previously crediting this account when we were recording it. Now it has been reversed. Now just to verify that, we can also see the balance sheet on this particular date. So let me run the balance sheet on 3rd of April, and as we scroll down to the liabilities section, you will notice that your accruals is now 0 and your creditors are now appearing at 360. Well, we expected 350, so what is 360? That must be 10 coming from some other transaction. So you don't have to guess, you can simply click on the amount and it will take you to the ledger, and you can see in this ledger that closing balance is 360. In that 360, this 350 is coming from the London Power Company, and 10 is the previous balance that was coming earlier. So now I have shown you the complete recording of accruals, when we record an accrual and when we actually receive the bill and record the actual bill. I hope you have found this interesting and easy.